Morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of MikesMMAPicks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show, brought to you by MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI. We are here for UFC Minneapolis. It's been a while since the UFC's headed that far north of Minnesota, and we've got 12 fights to look forward to today. Lots of opportunities out there. We've got some line value to be had. Got a bunch of fights that are expected to finish inside the distance. And let's get things crack-a-lackin' right off the bat. We'll start in the heavyweight division. We've got Maurice Green taking on Junior Albini. Junior Albini, 14-5 record, kind of burst onto the scene. I was at his first fight in the UFC against Timmy Big Dick Johnson, and man, he got a knockout in that fight, but since then has not looked good. Didn't look good against Arlovsky, and then we saw he's faded in a number of his fights, especially later into the first round. Saw Jair Rosenstreich lay him out. Maurice Green, 32 years old, kickboxing background, big guy, 6'7". He'll have an 8-inch reach advantage in this fight. Tough alumni. Maurice Green, -120 right now. This fight, I think this is one way you could separate yourself from the pack in a tournament. Only problem is this could turn into a snooze fest. So I think it's worth devoting a few lineups to rostering either one of these fighters. I do lean Albini here as the +100 underdog. Now, Albini, he was morbidly obese and lost a bunch of weight. That's why he got into mixed martial arts. That really isn't relevant to the fight that we're talking about right now. But I will say that I think that Albini has hit a wall here. I do think he's the more skilled fighter, and this fight is expected to end inside the distance at -170. So my slight lean is Albini here. I just think he has more tools to use, and it's just a matter of if Maurice Green brings the fight to Albini. Albini has trouble pursuing opponents. So if Green brings the fight to Albini, I'm gonna lean Albini here. Next up, women's 115-pound division. We've got Emily Whitmire, the Spitfire, taking on Amanda Ribas. Whitmire fighting out of Extreme Couture, 28 years of age. She's been relentless in her fights. 8,500 in DraftKings, -180 at the betting window. Miss Whitmire, she hasn't fought the best competition out there, and Alexandra Abu didn't like what I saw in that fight. Despite the first round submission victory, we've got a fighter who she's going to be playing with fire here against Ribas, who has a black belt, fighting out of American Top Team, grappling base. Amanda Ribas, who we haven't seen since 2016. Ribas, 7,700. I have a feeling we're going to see very, very low ownership on Ribas here. +150 underdog. Ribas was knocked out by Botello a few years ago, so we know she doesn't have the best chin. My question is, what has Ribas been up to over the past few years? We've seen social media can only tell you so much in these spots, but some folks may head towards the minus 180 favorite here in Whitmire. I think Ribas is going to surprise some people here, especially when this fight hits the ground. And I'm actually considering Ribas live in this spot. The problem, though, is if Whitmire takes this fight to the ground, she could neutralize Ribas, and that would put a bit of a damper as far as DraftKings goes. But I'm going to go with the upset here with Ribas. It's a bit of a risky play. I don't recommend making a play on the plus 150, but she may hit. We'll see. Next up, in the men's light heavyweight division, we've got Dalcha Lugiamblu. I know we butchered that name, but we've got a last-minute replacement coming in with Dequan Townsend. Townsend 21-8. Got to wonder how he got this call. We know how he got this call. He is taking the spot of Justin Ledette here. Both fighters 33 years of age. Unfortunately, this is a fight you're going to need to target. Well, I recommend targeting in DraftKings because we've got some sloppy light heavyweights fighting. Now, Dalcha is fighting out of South Africa. Reminds me of Bamboze. 8,700 in DraftKings. Minus 320. This fight should end inside the distance. Townsend, I got to watch a couple of his fights, and man, he leaves a lot to be desired as far as fight footage goes. There's some major holes in his game, and I expect Dalcha, who has shown the ability to go longer in fights. He's gone 5 rounds before. He's obviously my preferred play in DraftKings. Plus, you're getting a big line value here at 8,700 minus 320. He's one of the biggest favorites on the card. So give me Dalcha in this spot. Not much else to say about this fight. It's more of a fade of Townsend than anything else. Next up, at the men's lightweight division, we have Jared Gordon taking on Dan Moret. Jared Gordon, who fought Neto BJJ his last time out. He was winning the fight handily through 2 rounds, and at the end of the second round, got caught in a submission, tore his hamstring, came out in the 3rd round, and basically was although he had some success early, was a dead man walking in. Neto BJJ walked him down, finished the fight like he had to. I was on Gordon in that spot, and I think if that fight played out again, Gordon would have been victorious. But you know, these things happen in mixed martial arts. Dan Moret, 13-5, fighting out of the MMA lab. He does consider himself a Minnesota fighter as well, so you may see the home crowd have his back in this spots. But Jared Gordon has fought in other enemy territory before. Moret, 7,000 in DraftKings. Moret was KO'd by Gilbert Burns. Moret came in on short notice in that fight. He also lost to Alex White, who, man, Jim Miller sparked out Alex White. Alex White, I'm not sure if he's been cut at this point, but he isn't necessarily a UFC level fighter. I'm going to roll with the Rufus Sport product here at 9,200 in DraftKings. You look at Gordon's fight log. I know he was knocked out by Carlos Diego Ferreira, and then he also sustained the vicious knockout by Neto BJJ, but he's taken 6+ months off, rehabbed his hamstring. You can see his striking was vastly improved in that Neto BJJ fight. I'm going to roll with Jared Gordon here. I have a few units in play on this scrap, and this fight, even though it should go to a decision at -195, I still think Gordon has a few different ways to win the fight. He could win by knockout. He also could land a submission in this spot too. I was on a podcast with Tom Breeze a couple of years ago, and one of the things that he mentioned, Jared Gordon stood out to him with Renzo Gracie when he was rolling with him, just everything that Gordon brings to the table. So Gordon has a few ways to win this fight. I think the output should be a huge benefit to him in this spot. So the play here is going to be Jared Gordon. I also think he may be one of the best DraftKings plays on the board. Next up, we have in the men's light heavyweight division, Vinicius Moreira taking on Eric Anders. Eric Anders, 11-4, one of the highest priced fighters in DraftKings, 9,400. Both of these fighters have identical reach. Anders comes in at -320. Vinicius, 6,800, one of the lowest priced fighters out there, +260 at the betting window. Vinicius, submission specialist. He plods forward. If he can't get the fight to the ground, he's in big trouble. This fight is expected not to go to a decision at -260. Anders, my fear is that we've seen him plateau. The win over Tim Williams, he was about to lose that fight, except for the head kick knockout in the last seconds of that fight. He's coming off of the loss to Khalil Roundtree, and something that's concerning is he's been trying to seek help to implement game plans and have more confidence, and I think it's one thing to acknowledge that help, but we want to see changes. He fought the same fight against Lyoto Machida, Thiago Santos. He mixed in some takedowns there, but the guy doesn't have a plan B from what we've seen, and he may not need a plan B in this spot, but Eric Anders could win this fight a couple of different ways. I just think it's more of a fade of Moreira than anything else in this spot. So Eric Anders, I don't think he's worth playing over -300, but give me Eric Anders to win this fight by a number of different avenues. Next up, we have an interesting matchup in the men's 135-pound division. We've got Ricardo Ramos against Jorny Newsom. Jorny Newsom, 30 years of age. He actually took a boxing fight earlier this year, and comes out of a BJJ camp. 7,100, may fly under the radar at that price. The problem with this card, I don't expect many of the underdogs to come through. And at +275, Jorny Newsom is worth a look. Ricardo Ramos, I was really high on him a few fights ago. What people need to realize about Ricardo Ramos is that he's still only 23 years of age. So he's still developing, still growing into his body. I actually think he could move up to 145 pounds. He took some nasty kicks to the body by Said Nurmagomedov and wilted under that pressure. Didn't really get going. I believe that fight was at home in Brazil. This fight at 9,100, -345 favorite in DraftKings. I like Ramos as a sneaky play. I don't expect a lot of people to be on him. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -160, but the odds are pretty close here. As far as Ramos getting the finish, I see him. He could pepper Newsom with strikes, although Newsom has the boxing background. Ramos can land some kicks here, and also he has a impressive way of taking the back. If this fight hits the ground, Newsom, apparently he's a brown belt, but Ramos should have the edge here in a grappling department. This fight also is taking place on short notice, so we have to recognize that as well. So give me Ricardo Ramos to win this fight inside the distance. I actually expect him to win. Help me out, brother. Come here. Yeah. All right. So, got a couple more fights to go. We've got Paul Bearju Craig taking on Alonzo Menafield. Menafield is a big-time striker. $9,000 DraftKings price, -280 favorite. Paul Craig, 7,200, +230 underdog. He is one of the most, Craig we're speaking about, he's one of the most unathletic light heavyweights you'll see on the roster, but somehow he's found a way of locking in these last-minute submissions. I think we're going to see Menafield come out here guns blazing. The Fortis MMA product should win this fight inside the distance. He has very, very heavy hands. Hasn't tasted defeat in his career, so he's got some of that invincibility factor going for him. And I expect Menafield to get the victory. Paul Craig, he's going to look to take this fight to the ground. I don't think he's going to get it there. A concern of mine is that Alonzo Menafield didn't seem like he was worried about playing in the guard of Craig, and that's something that he shouldn't do. We know this. So let's cut to the chase. Give me Menafield in both formats, both in DraftKings and making a play on a Gordon Menafield 1 unit to win. Next up, in the men's lightweight division, we've got Drew Dober taking on Polo Reyes. Polo Reyes comes in with a 1-inch reach advantage. Polo Reyes looked solid against Matt Frevola, though he popped after that fight, and then we saw got destroyed by Hadjovic. Polo Reyes, one of the lowest price, actually the lowest price DraftKings play on the card at 6,700, +280 underdog. Drew Dober, model of consistency here. High output striker. Dude is thick, man. I don't know how this guy consistently comes close to making weight. 9,500, -350 at the betting window for Dober. If Reyes comes out and brings this fight to Dober, then we might see a high-scoring affair. The fight is expected not to go to a decision at -175. I think, well, it's obvious there are better options other than Dober here. So if you do want to be sneaky, you could roster the highest priced fighter, but I don't expect many of these underdogs to come through, and Dober has been susceptible to having his chin checked, and Reyes could be the guy to do it. I think it's worth a punt here at 6,700. Reyes is typically a high output striker. We didn't see that from him in his last fight. He got taken down, and I don't think Dober's going to want to do that here. I think Dober might try and land some leg kicks early. But you know what? Reyes, while Dober's throwing those kicks, may counter with some straight punches and cause Dober some real problems. So I'll be punting with Reyes in a number of spots here. The pick's going to be Dober, but I think Reyes is actually live in this spot. Next up, we got Vince Pichel taking on Roosevelt Roberts. Pichel, 11-2, 36 years of age. So he's been he's had a bunch of long layoffs. I was watching a few interviews where he's had 2 back surgeries in between his last fight and the one that's going to be having place later tonight. That's always a concern, but he had the surgeries, I believe, late in 2018, so he's had time to rehab and put in a full camp here. He's used to putting in longer camps than this, but I believe he's had almost 12 weeks to work with in this spot. Roosevelt Roberts, 8-0, minus 285 favorite, 8,900 on DraftKings. Comes in with a 1-inch reach. Did not look impressive against Gifford, and he's only 25 years old, so there's some volatility to his game, despite being undefeated. Daryl Horcher, man, that's another guy who was in a motorcycle accident. Horcher got smoked by Roosevelt Roberts, and I don't see Pichel getting caught in those same positions. Pichel is one tough hombre, and for 7,300 and at plus 235, I'll be rolling with the underdog here. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 145. So give me Pichel in this spot. I think he's going to be resilient, and he's not the most high volume striker, but when he does punch, he throws with intent, and I could see Roosevelt Roberts wilting late in this fight. Pichel doesn't go away, and Gregor Gillespie had to really work his ass off to get Pichel out of there. Next up, we have a hotly contested debate. We've got a fight in the welterweight division between Anthony Rocco Martin and Damian Maia. Damian Maia, 26-9. He's fought the who's who, both at middleweight and at welterweight. Anthony Rocco Martin, originally, I believe he went 1-4 in the UFC at one point, and has really turned things around. Went down to American Top Team, and still only 29 years old with a 1.5-inch reach advantage. I expect Rocco Martin to be a very highly owned underdog here at 7,600 plus 150. Maia will be turning 42 years of age later this year. He's 8,600 in DraftKings. Maia has a pretty clear path to victory here at minus 180. Something of a concern is Rocco Martin. I hate calling him that, even though that's what his preferred name is. Martin has been susceptible to being taken down, and Maia does not give up on his takedowns. I think we're going to see Maia once again spam takedowns until he is able to get the fight to the ground and then just hold position. And he could just work through the round and come out with the decision victory here, or he could land the submission. Sergio Moraes was able to take Rocco Martin's back, I believe, towards the tail end of the second round of that fight, and Martin exhibited some hand fighting, saved his ass in that spot, and I I think Maia could get the submission here. I think the submission play is worth a stab, although I'll be playing Maia straight at minus 175, 1.5 units there. I think this is a huge step up in competition for Martin. Martin, in interviews, has shared that his life, everything's gone to shit, and that all the walls are caving in, and that he's going to come out killing people. But folks typically don't perform optimally when everything in their life is going to shit. This could be like a caged animal mentality where he's extremely vulnerable and his back is against the wall, and now he's forced to fight when he has nothing left to lose. So that does make a dangerous fighter. Granted, most humans don't engage in cage fighting. So to say that folks don't perform optimally when outside factors are a nuisance, different stressors, this could be an outlet for Martin. So he could twist this around and use this as a him against the world type of mentality. It's worked for him in the past. So Martin could be live in the spot. I just think that the step up in competition is going to be too much. There is another side of the coin here, though. Maia, he's been in a number of wars throughout the years, and every fighter falls off that cliff at some point. This is, 26-9. Maia's got a lot of fights under his belt, but we're going to roll with Maia in this spot to close out the deal, and DraftKings as well. Now, we get to the co-main event of the evening. This is a rematch of a fight that took place in 2013. Jussier Formiga against Joseph Benavidez. In their first fight, Benavidez was a minus 700 favorite, and he ended up winning that fight in the first round via knockout. So this time around, we have Joseph Benavidez at minus 155, Jussier Formiga plus 135. Formiga has a 2-inch reach advantage, though he's a very low-volume striker. He's going to try and control positions here, and he's going to want to grapple. Benavidez is a high-volume striker who is scrambly in nature. It's going to be very tough for Formiga to get a submission in this spot. I think the line should be wider for Benavidez. I know some folks say that Benavidez is over the hill, and I realize that at the 125-pound weight class, you're going to need someone who's spry, who's quick, who's athletic, and Benavidez, he has all those attributes. I also think seeing the interviews with Benavidez talk about not solely relying on becoming a champion and focusing on the now and everything that's in front of him, I think that's going to help him in this fight. And also, his previous victory over Formiga will help aid his confidence. Formiga has been on a roll lately, dominating his past few fights, but he hasn't fought someone the likes of Benavidez in a while, and I think the volume is just going to be too much. The Dustin Ortiz fight with Benavidez, Ortiz really gave Benavidez the fight of his life. And you could see, I mean, it's crazy how Ortiz got cut after that fight. But it just showed me that Benavidez's will to win and to win every position is his awareness on the ground is incredible. So give me Joseph Benavidez. Got a 1.5 units on him at minus 150, and I expect him to come through in this spot. Next up, we have main event of the evening, Francis Ngannou taking on Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos 21-5. Another American top team fighter. So many cards are filled with guys from ATT. It's incredible. They've been taking over. Francis Ngannou 13-3. Something that stands out very quickly with this fight. Ngannou has an 8-inch reach advantage. And at some point in the fight, I expect that to come into play. I think just Ngannou possesses too much power at the heavyweight division, where he only has to touch Dos Santos once for Dos Santos to go completely out. Dos Santos is going to look to get on his bike here. Dos Santos, 35 years old now. He's been in the game for so long. Remember those beatings that he took at the hands of Cain Velasquez? It's been many years since those, and he's had a resurgence, but he also hasn't fought the best competition. Dos Santos, 7,400, plus 180 at the betting window. Ngannou, 8,800 in DraftKings, minus 220 favorite. Odds have been closing slightly. Listen to this, fight doesn't go to the distance odds, minus 610. That's wow. So the thing with Ngannou is he's one of those guys who can land one punch and the fight's over. So he doesn't put up the highest DraftKings scores in most cases, though at $8,800, if he's able to get that knockout, that's going to it could potentially happen early in this fight, so that could reach value from a DraftKings perspective. So if Ngannou was priced higher, I would say let's have a little less shares of him on DraftKings, but at 8,800, you're going to want a piece of him. The inside the distance odds on Ngannou opened at minus 160. I got in on that, and in my eyes, it depends on what the odds are at this moment, but that's the better play than playing him straight. Also, something to consider is if JDS does win this fight, he's probably going to get on his bicycle and pepper Ngannou with shots, get in, get out. We haven't seen Dos Santos go to the ground, and I don't expect it to happen in this spot, although Ngannou has shown a weakness there. But we'll make this short and sweet. Ngannou via knockout at some point within the first 2 rounds. I think that's what we should expect. So, interesting card today. Not many lower price underdogs should come through. I like Pichel in that spot, and then a bunch of the favorites, the high price favorites, should come through for us. Want to wish everybody a phenomenal day, phenomenal fight day out there. Check out BetDSI, MMA Oddsbreaker. You can follow me at MikesMMAPicks on Twitter. I'm also on BetMMA as well as CapperTech. Take it easy, folks.